All right, what's going on, guys? This is Rob, and we are back with The Boys Dear Becky Part 5. Now, unlike the previous ones we've done, this is more informational than anything else, but this is one of those instances where the information we get is pretty critical. So what this does is it initially picks up on a rooftop where, of course, you've got Vicar meeting with Billy Butcher. Now, remember, the whole idea behind this is that Vicar is basically their eyes and ears while they're there, and they're relying on the information that Vicar's giving them to help them understand what's going on with Julian Baxter Pugh, the Scorchers, and the inner turmoil that's taking place inside Vaught American. Now, here's a funny thing here, right? That's how Vicar understands it. The reality is that Billy Butcher doesn't truly trust Vicar, right? There really isn't a whole lot of indication that what's going on, or at least that what Vicar is telling him is something that he can just wholeheartedly believe. And so what they did is they actually planted a bug on Vicar himself. He doesn't know about it, but basically it's there to hear everything that Vicar hears. And so when Vicar comes to Billy Butcher and says, hey man, like, here's what's going on, here's what I heard, yada, 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 they would know if he was lying or not, right? So there's a pretty genius maneuver there. There's a pretty cool thing, because what it does is it maintains the loyalties of Vicar, albeit without his knowledge, and it gives him the ability to always ensure that he's being honest and to counter correctly if he's not. And so what ends up happening, from what Vicar tells him, is that what ends up happening is there is a point where he overheard basically a conversation, or really more of an argument, between Julian Baxter Pugh and Stormfront, so that they could have some kind of a conversation that Vicar can't necessarily make out, but that Stormfront kept getting pissed off and kept saying no. But he said it in a way that indicated he said it before, and he was pissed off about having to say it again. And so while all that's going on, you've of course got Mother's Milk, who's basically listening to all the information or all the audio that was captured by Vicar without his knowledge, and just kind of running through everything. And so once Vicar leaves, right, when the question's kind of asked here by Billy Butcher, like, is there anything else? Like, anything else that you want to tell us? Anything else that you want to let us know about that you're maybe keeping away or anything like that? You know, like anything you can tell us about Stormfront? That Vicar's response is, I mean, I kind of thought that was all you'd really want to know. Like, I didn't think you really want to know anything else. And he kind of asks a few things, really, you know, when he goes in to meet with Stormfront, he's like, you know, who's the Brit guy? And, you know, Stormfront's like, you know, just some piece of crap or something like that. And Stormfront basically dismisses Vicar once he realizes it is Vicar. So obviously Stormfront doesn't take Vicar very seriously, but he's like, after what I overheard, now I'm here to talk to you about it. And the reality is that when Vicar leaves, Mother's Milk is just kind of like, yep, he was basically telling the truth. You know, I mean, Stormfront called him a sucker a few times, but outside of that, like, he's basically telling the truth. And so that's when you get into this sort of realization or revelation of what's going on, and that Mother's Milk says, okay, so like, Stormfront figures superhuman development is a better bet than Julian Baxter Pugh's division. He doesn't want to be part of anything that can connect him to like the Grand Savannah, like all this stuff. He says, and Billy Butcher of course responds by saying, I don't think we're gonna be hearing from Stormfront. I reckon the big squarehead's basically rattled, right? Like, with everything going on, he's gonna be playing it pretty low profile. And so when the question's asked by Mother's Milk, do you think that like what's actually going on here is Vicar went in there and said, hey, I need you guys to basically act. I need you guys to kind of put on a show because I'm basically being tracked down or being used by the boys and they know about us, right? The jig is up and all that kind of stuff. The responsibility Butcher is no. That's not what's really going on at all. Because the reality here is that if Vicar were to go in there and he were to tell Vaught American or Stormfront or Julian Baxter Pugh or those guys that we're onto them, that we're basically forcing him to work as a spy, they would just kill him and walk away, right? They wouldn't put on some great big huge elaborate show or anything like that. That's just too much work, right? They would just execute him and it would be done. The fact that he's even here and talking to us indicates that they don't know that we're onto them. And if they do know, they're keeping it very, very low key, but there's nothing to indicate they do because all this information is being gathered. And so again, the main focus here of the boys at the moment under Colonel Mallory is to basically go through and to ensure or to allow the campaign with Julian Baxter Pugh to go through. Because remember, Julian Baxter Pugh, what he's basically trying to do here is launch his own superhero development system, right? His own superhero development project kind of within Vaught American itself. Vaught American is keeping an eye on it, but because of the popularity and the fact that the Scorchers were just immediately made high profile means that it forces the hand of Vaught American to kind of stay away. Vaught American can't just go through and just kill the Scorchers all of a sudden, because then Julian Baxter Pugh, having all the information that he has, could actually dump that information out to the world. So it's really kind of corporate politics that's going on. That's how this inner turmoil plays out. And so while the Scorchers are kind of there doing their thing, that we end up finding out that what Julian Baxter Pugh had done is he had actually hired some actors that are basically supposed to go out there and face off against the Scorchers in order to put on this show, this kind of mock conflict conflict or whatever, so the Scorchers can be put out there as basically a superhero team of sorts. But because Vought American can't act publicly, what Vought American intends to do is send in their own superheroes to act quietly, right? To basically kill the Scorchers off, so no one really knows what's going on. Now, in reality, because Julian Baxter Pugh's media division is here, what would likely happen is these C-list heroes or C-list super beings would also kill that media division, right? Because it's all being recorded, but none of it's really being live streamed. So that's the thing to understand here, is there's multiple forces at work. Now, Billy Butcher and them, right? Billy coming to the realization that with Stormfront being tipped off by Julian Baxter Pugh, or at least being aware of what Pugh wants to do, likely told the superhero division of Vought American, which is why these soups are here in the first place. And so with Billy Butcher and even Colonel Mallory realizing that it's okay, we've got to make sure this thing goes off without a hitch. That's why they're here, is to take out the C-list superheroes before they can stop the actors from getting to the Scorchers and allowing this video to go off without a hitch, right? This whole plan of Julian Baxter Pugh, because the more infighting there is in Vought American, the better it is for the boys and the easier for them to get in and start bringing down Vought American from the inside out, right? Hopefully they believe it'll lead to some kind of a major collapse. And so what goes on is that as the boys are here inside the stadium, you've got the actors who, they have no idea what they're actually in for. Like, they would probably all end up being killed, but the boys start making their way through and they confront the superheroes, right? The C-list superheroes. And so in front of all these actors, the boys beat the superheroes to death. They literally kill them all in the most brutal way ever. Even the actors are just kind of like, wow, like, this is insane. Like, they just beat these guys to death. Now, where the actors are kind of like, okay, this is not what we signed up for. We were told all of this was going to be going on out there on the field. What in the hell is happening right now? You know, like, are you guys working for Julian Baxter Pugh? And the response of the boys is, yeah, we're here for Julian Baxter Pugh. These guys were gonna do you in, but we're working for Julian Baxter Pugh. So here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna go out there and you're gonna play your role. And while they're like, I mean, no, like, we are not doing that. Like, this is not what we signed up for. The response of the boys is either you can die here or you can go out there, right? But like, we're here working for Julian Baxter Pugh. Do not tell him what went on in here. He doesn't like wrinkles and plans. So as far as you're concerned, you got suited up, you went out there, and that was basically it. So what's it gonna be, right? Are you gonna die here, or are you gonna are you gonna live and play your role out there? And for no other reason than the action of self-preservation, they end up going out there and they end up basically facing off against the Scorchers, and seemingly the whole thing goes off without a hitch. So again, this is a much shorter video than the ones that we normally record. Again, it's more informational than anything else, but it's just kind of them executing that plan. So the kind of tail bit that we get here is basically Billy Butcher going through, again, continuing to write in this journal and saying that he hates all the superheroes. Now, this is where he really starts to show his true colors when he says it's not just the one that did what he did to Becky, right? The one that knocked Becky up and resulted in her giving birth to a superpowered baby and dying in the process. He says it's basically all of them. It's every single superpowered being out there. The good guys, the bad guys, the ones that have no idea what they're really getting into, right? Like the Starlights of the world, right? Those wide-eyed, you know, young, naive superheroes out there in Heartland America who want nothing more than to be a part of the Seven, that they're all the problem, right? They're all a major issue. It's this broad stroke on just the evil nature of anybody with powers, and that they all have to go. Every single one of them have to die, which again, this all sets the stage for why Billy is the way he is by the time we pick up with the main boy's story. So with that being said, guys, again, this is much shorter than usual, but more of an informational episode. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you all later. Peace.